Today I have a product that is more special than usual. It's still a laptop, but not just any laptop. It's dedicated to content creators, streamers, designers, video editors, or photographers who want to process their masterpieces on the go. This StudioBook series from Asus has been around for a while and can be considered a benchmark in this market niche. What we have here is the latest iteration of this series. I also own an older one, here it is. I believe this is one of the first StudioBooks, now a colleague of mine is still using it. The laptop has been super worked, but is tough as a nail and it still runs well. There are problems here and there, like faulty keys, but nothing that cannot be resolved through a thorough cleaning. Anyway, in all the years that I have used it heavily, it has been a solid and loyal workhorse. And here is the ultimate proof. It is still in our yard. I don't hide the fact that I would like the new one to be at least as durable and long-lived, but I can't know that. Only time will tell. Well, let's start from the beginning and analyze it a bit. It is rather large. After all, we're talking about a 16-inch model. It is also heavy, but in the end, it's not some ultrabook. It has a tank-like build, it's full aluminum, and the black lid contains a simple inscription in the center, which announces that it is a ProArt product dedicated to content creators. On the back edge and on the sides, there are some large vents where the beast exhales hot air, and on the belly, we have rubber inserts meant to elevate the laptop from the desk surface and a perforated panel where it inhales cold air. Everything is sturdy and pragmatic. There are no bells and whistles, the design is simply utilitarian. Even the opening slot of the lid, the space where you insert your fingers to lift it, is wide and deep. And when you lift the lid, the body of the laptop is so heavy that it stays firmly on the desk. An observation related to the utilitarian character of this model is that we have connectivity on the back. It means it is designed to be used in desktop mode without the HDMI cable, the power cable, or the network cable getting in the way on the sides. There is a full HDMI 2.1 port designed for connecting to an external monitor, the port for the hefty 240 watt power brick, and an RJ45 port for the network cable, and all are located on the back edge, which by the way is protruding, extending more than a centimeter behind the screen. Why? I think for two reasons. One, so as not to blow hot air around the monitor, and two, precisely to provide a sort of dock for the connectivity on the back. The truth is that although not very aesthetic, I still don't dislike this tailed laptop format. It's more retro, it feels a bit outdated, but it is undoubtedly practical. In addition, it seems to provide better protection for the screen hinges, which are 2 in number and distributed on the sides. Returning to connectivity, we also have some on the sides. On the right, 2 USB-C ports, but with Thunderbolt 4, it's clear that we're dealing with a tool for professionals who need to connect either fast storage or anything else that supports this standard. And there is also a USB Type-A 3.2 Gen 2 port. What I also noticed on this side is a Kensington lock that is one of those locks that the stores are using to secure their products. And on the left, we have another full USB 3.2 Gen 2 port, a port for the 3.5mm headphone and microphone jack, and an SD card reader that supports speeds up to 985 Mbps. So not those micro SD cards, but full-factor ones as used by photographers and videographers in their cameras. The wired connectivity is complemented by wireless with Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.2. So you can see that you are dealing with a professional tool from several such small choices. And when you lift the lid, this impression is even more pronounced. The keyboard is large, well-spaced, and you immediately notice that it also has a numeric segment, that numpad heavily used by professionals who enter values in the software they work with. Besides the numpad, the up, down, home and end keys are large and on top of that grippy. They have a different texture than the rest of the keys. The space between the keys is airy, the keys themselves are not very noisy and quite firm and clicky when pressed. But perhaps the most special element here is the multifunctional dial, this joystick that helps you quickly control and adjust various functions. It has its own application in the interface and I found it extremely practical. From it, you can quickly adjust the volume, the brightness of the screen, and with a long press, a rather complex menu opens from where you can customize its actions. It's called Asus Dial Control Panel, and it offers a multitude of customizations. I updated the application to the latest version and played around with it. This so-called Asus Dial is designed to work in popular professional apps such as Adobe Photoshop, Premiere Pro, Lightroom Classic, Illustrator, and After Effects, but it also works in many others. When you press on it, the menu adapted to the corresponding Adobe application is displayed, allowing quick adjustment for frequently used functions such as zoom, brightness, and contrast by turning the dials. Also, you can easily change the size of the brush in Photoshop or undo actions to make your workflow simpler. You can assign shortcuts in applications or group settings, meaning you can combine similar functions into a well-defined group. You can adjust the sensitivity of the rotation speed on 5 levels, and in addition, the settings page includes a profile management function, allowing users to export the settings to a profile and then import it onto another device that supports Asus Dial. It's cool and practical, this thing. And last but not least, the touchpad. And this one is not just any touchpad, so pay attention. First of all, it offers haptic feedback, and secondly, it supports a stylus, meaning you can write by hand and draw on it, and the result is displayed on the screen. In addition, it has a 16:10 aspect ratio to match the main screen, meaning it is scaled so that when you use a stylus, the surfaces coincide. It is treated with a hydrophobic layer, it has an anti-fingerprint coating, and supports multi-touch gestures, meaning you can use 3 or 4 fingers to control applications or frequently used functions. Good. And now let me tell you what I didn't like. First of all, in terms of software, Asus has the bad habit of dressing their products with the whole wardrobe. We have 3 such proprietary softwares: a so-called ProArt Creator Hub, which is designed for display control and especially for color management, calibration, optimization, etc. Then they have My Asus, that application that is found on almost all their laptops, and which is also a kind of centralizer, where you control various other functions like battery care, sound functions like noise cancelling, the OLED screen, again, refresh rate, blah blah blah, the MUX switch, etc. And last but not least, another app, the control panel of that respective dial. Bro, many of them overlap, and they all overlap with various controls in Windows. What the heck? 10 ways to do the same thing. When will Asus learn that less is more? A second thing that I didn't really like, this time from an aesthetic point of view, is that the very beautiful and potent screen has some edges, at least on the top and bottom, kind of from 2016 or so. Quite thick for these times, edges that eat into the visible surface area. Well, to conclude with the exterior, the appearance, construction and design, let's say that the laptop weighs almost 2.5 kilos, more precisely 2.4, and it's 2.4 centimeters at its thickest area. Clearly, it is not the most portable, lightest or most elegant laptop, but it is not intended to be. Its simplicity attracts me, and it does not seem excessively large and heavy, especially considering the top components inside. But let's go to those as well. I would make one last observation before that, namely that the laptop comes equipped with a 90 watt-hour battery, which is respectable, but I saw it melting like butter in the sun while I was doing nothing on the laptop. Anyway, I don't think anyone has any expectations from the battery of a laptop with an Intel Core i9-13980HX processor, RTX 4070 graphics card, and a 16-inch screen. And since I've mentioned some of the features, let's talk about specifications and performance. Asus went all in with this model. An Intel Core i9-13980HX processor, an RTX 4070 graphics card, and you will immediately see that although it is not 4080 or 4090, this choice was a wise one. 64 gigs of RAM, clocked at 5200 MHz, and enormous storage, consisting of 2 NVMe SSDs of 4 TB each, for a total of 8 TB. Clearly a configuration for content creators. And now, let's talk some numbers. I quickly threw a Cinebench R23 in the equation to see how the processor behaves and especially how it cools. The i9 is known as a hungry and hot beast, so I was curious to see if the cooling manages to keep it in check or not. But the performances are undoubtedly exceptional, and on the first round of Cinebench, the processor returned a score of over 30,000 points in multi-core. I then gave it a 10-minute cycle to see how we stand with throttling, consumption and temperatures. The maximum frequency reached was 5.4 GHz at the first rounds, with a consumption of 155 watt and a maximum temperature of 94 degrees Celsius. Not bad for an Intel i9, which we know well how hot it can get. After the fourth round, things stabilized. Frequency around 3 GHz, temperature at 77 degrees and consumption around 80 watt. At the 10th round, the indicated frequency was 2.8, the temperature was 70 degrees and the consumption was 70 watt. So this is what the aggregated curve of frequency, consumption and temperature looks like. I took it apart to see what the cooling under the hood looks like, and I wasn't disappointed. The laptop has 2 large fans and 6 sturdy heat pipes that traverse both the processor and the graphics chip, covered by large radiators. This is probably one of the reasons why the laptop, although compact, is quite heavy, meaning the guys worked hard and put in an appropriate cooling. As for the graphics card, this 4070 with 8GB VRAM is the maximum you will receive on this series, and even if some might be disappointed, I say that it is a balanced choice, designed to provide good graphic performance without excessively increasing temperatures and consumption inside this compact case. And now, let's spend a little more time on the display, which is simply a jewel. It's actually the crown jewel of this laptop and certainly one of the best I've ever measured. It is an OLED, what else? A full 16 inches in a 16:10 format at 120 Hz refresh rate and with an impressive resolution of 3200 by 2000 pixels. So, top specs. But all those listed so far are not even the most impressive ones. What is out of this world about this display is the accuracy. The uniformity of brightness and colors is exceptional. I got a delta E lower than 1. As for the gamut, we have 100% P3 and in fact 100% or very close to this value in any other standard. The display is Pantone validated and I believe there is no fine task in photo or video editing that cannot be accomplished in the best conditions on this panel. Moving on to the sound part, the laptop does not disappoint here either. We have 2 Harman Kardon certified speakers that sound clear and loud with Dolby Atmos support, and the StudioBook also has 4 microphones for the online interaction part. And not in vain, because we also have a Full HD webcam with infrared sensor and all those dubious AI functions such as reframing or that creepy function that makes you look like you're always staring directly into the camera, and others like that. I'm glad that during the pandemic, manufacturers have returned to the good practice of implementing webcams on laptops, because before the plague, they had started to disappear. So, taken as a whole, this laptop is a complete package of artistic productivity. A superb and extremely accurate display, a powerful processor, an adequate graphics card, plenty of RAM and storage, sufficiently ergonomic and well-positioned connectivity, a tank-like build, and a sober and functional design. To all this are added some useful extras, such as this touchpad with haptic feedback and support for a stylus, and not least the Asus dial, which works well in the Adobe suite, but also in other applications, and which can be quite extensively customized. All in all, I really like the new StudioBook, and with few exceptions, such as the proprietary software diarrhea or the somewhat larger edges of the screen, for its purpose and the category to which it is dedicated, this laptop is almost perfect. I found a version of it on Amazon for $2,374 with the same screen, processor and graphics card, but with 32 gigs of RAM and 1 TB SSD. But nothing stops you from adding another NVMe SSD and 1 more memory module, a very simple and quick operation. So, at just under $2,500 for what it can do and for the category it is intended for, this laptop seems a very good deal. It's not a gaming or show-off laptop, it's a device you make money with. And I'm glad I had the chance to test something like this again. And now you tell me in the comments section, how do you like the new StudioBook ProArt? That's all for today. Show us some love and subscribe to Techniqualities. Happy holidays, ho ho ho, and wish you all the best.